Hey everyone, and welcome again to KDLounge. It's good to be back. With us today, we have Omar Hamdan. Glad to have you here, Omar.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
He's the founder, maybe co-founder, I think, of Kadcars. Is that correct, Omar?
Yeah. So I'm one of the co-founders and software engineer on Kadcars right now.
Cool. Kadcars, for those of you who don't know, it's an NFT project on Kadena. So we decided to bring Omar here to tell us a little bit about the project. We've been hearing some stuff on Twitter, but not a lot yet. So we really wanted to dig in on the project. So before we talk about Kadcars, let's talk a little bit about you, Omar. Give us a little bit of a rundown on your background. What led you to start doing this kind of projects and all of that stuff?
Sure. Yep. So first of all, pleasure being here. Thank you for having me. I am, like we said, team lead and software engineer on Kadcars. Some quick background on me. I have a computer engineering degree and a master's in cybersecurity. I have experience building high throughput calculation software to calculate final tax inclusive amounts on like goods and services. And I also have experience as a miner. So I've been exposed to Kadena and to Flux through mining mainly. Mining and now a node provider as well through Flux. We have a setup with some of the guys at Kadcars actually where we mine separately. So that's pretty cool. And what drove me to Kadena is just hearing a lot constantly about its technology to the point that, you know, we had to try and see. And there's a really cool story about the birth of Kadcars where one of the biggest or first projects, NFT projects on Kadena, KDCAD, posted like a developer grant to kind of get developers to come and build, right? And that's the day we actually built a really quick NFT, a proof of concept for what we wanted to do. And ever since, it's been just a grind on Kadcars.
Nice, man. So you mentioned cybersecurity. How much is that something that you bring with you to this project? So, and how much is that something that led you to crypto and blockchain?
Yeah, so cybersecurity is, I mean, the main reason I even took that degree was the master's in cybersecurity was because of blockchain. So it's definitely the driver there, and it's pretty useful because a lot of what we're doing is based on or has a lot of fundamentals in cybersecurity, like even stuff like upgrades, right? When we do the upgrades, you need a way to authenticate them, and that technique is using something similar to the Stewart-Haber content integrity. And a lot of that is, you know, cybersecurity, hashing, cryptography. So all of that is pretty useful. I'm very glad to have that background because it's pretty relevant in, you know, blockchain. And you never want to build a, you know, smart contract without having cybersecurity background on your team. You don't want to get exploited.
It's kind of the feeling I have. Like blockchain is a lot to do. It has a lot to do with cybersecurity, right? You need to do a safe smart contract, so that it seems that your background is kind of something you would need you would use for this kind of project or any kind of blockchain project. Speaking of the project, what is Kadcars?
Right, so Kadcars is a collection of these really cool 3D cars coming to Kadena. And, you know, first and foremost, they're really cool looking 3D cars, but then they also are customizable, upgradable, and raceable as well, which we'll go into today. But yeah, so they're a collection of these really cool next-gen NFTs coming to Kadena very, very soon.
Do you have already like an idea of the supply? How many a collection will have?
So we were gonna start off with two different car models, the K2 and the K1. The K2, which we'll probably release first, is an off-roader, and that will have around, I believe, 1,337 cars. Even though this is technically the first time announcing it, yeah.
Leads, that's nice. That's nice.
For the K1, we still haven't settled on an amount. To be honest, the K1 is going to be a supercar, and that's going to come later. But we'll announce that amount, you know, down the line.
Will they have different utilities?
Yes, of course. So, you know, the K1 and the K2 being the first two models to release, first of all, just holding them will always have benefits in our ecosystem beyond like others. But they'll also have, you know, they're each separate benefits and utilities for holding them.
So it will be two different collections, just to be clear. Like the K2 and the K1 are two different collections.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, two different collections.
Okay, and you have the supply set for the K2, not for the K1 yet.
Yeah, and the importance of like releasing multiple, but when you talk about cars, right? There's a lot of niches in cars, and a lot of people like certain cars in certain areas in cars, which is why it's important that we try to cater to to a few different groups. We have, like I said, an off-roader as well as a supercar racing car coming out, which we think both of them are pretty cool, and I think people will love them.
Nice. Do you have any background with cars? So is it a passion of yours?
So myself, not so much. I mean, I like cars as much as the other guy or the next guy, but my team, we have, Suelam, Khalaf, and Mo are pretty big car enthusiasts. And the reason we went with cars is because, we have talked in the past, we mined together and we've talked about like NFTs, not necessarily in Kadena, but just like, what if we make NFTs? And yeah, those Khalaf and Suelam are pretty big car heads to the point where they've actually asked me before in the past, hey, what if we make a car NFT? And Khalaf also builds cars. So he, builds these small hybrid racing cars.
Real life cars, just to be sure.
Yeah.
Real life cars. Okay.
Yeah. And Suelam as well is a pretty big car enthusiast. So that's where the car aspect comes from. My team is obsessed with cars. They love them. And I'm the one trying to, help them build the vision for the perfect car, basically.
Okay, nice. So you mentioned the team there. How big is your team?
Yeah, let me quickly maybe introduce the team really briefly. So we have right now a team of 5 or 6 technically. I say 5 or 6 because one isn't fully on yet. Mm-hmm. We have Omar Hamdan, who is our operations and business lead. He's the guy who plans, and also make sure we stick with the plans, right? Plans are useless unless you execute on them and follow them. And then we have Mohammed Khalaf, who is our game design lead. Whenever it comes to like gamifying the car, the races, the experience from that, he's in charge of that. We have Mohammed, who's our developer with me. He is the absolute genius behind the website. So the website's gonna get some major updates in the next, I guess, couple weeks. They're ready, they're just not pushed out. So Mohammed, built the website, and he's also, big part in all the tech that you're gonna see come out. And we have Ozan, who is our artist and creative lead. He's, the artist for both the K2 and the K1. And he drove a lot of, anytime there's like a creative process we have, he drives that. And finally, not fully a team member, and this isn't really an official role, but we have Solman, who's a community ambassador.
Oh, I know
Yeah.
he is.
I think everyone in the community knows and loves him. He's basically one of our biggest supporters, and he's been making content for us and helping us, and more recently even providing feedback on like the models and the art. So I think he earned the honorable mention.
He makes kick-ass videos, man. Very
his videos
cool.
are beautiful. They're beautiful. So that's the team. As far as I mentioned earlier that some of us mine together. So me, Khalaf, and Suelam, we have a mining operation together that we technically started in the early 2021, but it was like one GPU at the start and like planning and stuff. Now we have a pretty good operation. We have pretty nice location set up for us just for mining. So that's pretty cool. And that allowed us to get kind of work together and be able to build Kadcars. We already had a foundation and a team, so that was great.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's the team. Yep.
You mentioned like the art, so for the NFTs, but also racing and some other stuff about combining. Can you give us a rundown on what exactly will we be able to do with Kadcars?
Yeah, okay. So first of all, Kadcars are a 3D car. So in essence, you can see them in 3D. That's a very important point that we're building, to the point or to the extent where, you can actually customize your car in the sense that you can turn it around, right, on the NFT. You can pop the door. You can, customize the view of your NFT because it's a 3D car. Number 2 is beyond just basic customizations, you can actually upgrade your car. So we will have, different NFTs as parts, for example, like paint color, different wheels, different components as parts that you can add and attach onto your NFT. And that's the upgradability aspect. And then to take even a step further, you can add or attach on racers. So like, let's say you have, a kick-ass mock or a kitty or whatever other NFT.
Or a bull or a king.
Or a bull, whatever it is, right? There's a lot of awesome ones in Kadena. We want you to be able to, add them onto your car as a racer, and, certain NFTs have, boost your stats in certain ways. You can add them onto your cat car, you can drive around with them, and then, when you want, you can detach them and let go.
So basically, let me try to understand. Let's say I have a cat car and I have a Kadena bull, a kitty cat, a king, and I'll go to your web page, and I can just sign the transaction, and they'll be together. So I'll place them together.
Yeah, so let me walk you through kind of the user experience side of this. You go into garage mode, which is like, a typical garage that you see with your car and like your NFTs on the side. And then let's say you have a bull or whatever NFT it is. You can attach that as a racer. And if it's a 2D image, for example, it's not actually a 3D image. You can't really put it properly in the seat. You can have like in a frame on the top left of your NFT, when it combines, it shows up on your car's NFT, right? And as long as it's attached, it shows up there. So you can actually see your car and then like your racer here on the top left. Or if it was a 3D PFP NFT, you can literally put it in the seat, for example, right? And you can actually, while it's attached, again, you can see it. If it has a certain effect on your car, it will be live as long as it's attached. And then, if you want to release your kitty or your mock, release it, get off, leave the car. Completely separate again.
Can I take my car with my driver and put it on the metaverse and just drive around the metaverse, for example?
Yep, and that's the whole point of this. So we want you to be able to, spawn your car with your kitty, with your mock, with whatever it is, with your parts or customizations, and just you're ready to go, right? You're just ready to race, ready to drive.
That's so cool, man. I really love this metaverse and NFT, and I mean Kadcars. If you do that, if you have a ready to go car that you can just race around any metaverse, that sounds amazing. And if you can combine NFTs, then go to whatever you go. I mean, that's pretty cool. So you touched on the art, you touched on the upgradability, and now we're getting into the real use of the car, right? To race.
Yeah. Yep.
What kind of game ideas, or do you have a game that you're releasing?
So we have a few ideas that we're working on, and we're gonna, you'll hear a lot more about soon. But essentially, the first step is to create races that you can actually, get behind your wheel virtually and drive in, and race in and compete for whatever prize. And we have some really cool designs around racing, where essentially we want to do on-chain racing. So if you're kind of familiar with Marmalade and what they did with Mint Marketplace, right, is they, have this policy that captures the core requirements of a token, right? And that kind of dictates how it's used. We want to do something similar with racing, where essentially, you have your race models as an NFT, and that can handle all this stuff, like the important stuff that you need to do in a trustless way, right? Like, let's say, for example, you had an entry for a race. So the entry fee can be governed by the contract as well. And then, tied to that contract will be a very rich 3D racing game, of course, on the back end. And the power of doing it this way is, earlier I talked about us being able to combine NFTs onto each other, right? So if you have a race, you can combine, 5 or 6 Kadcars onto the race and, execute the race, finish. And then, the race will be like, validate all the results. It has everything on chain, and you're done, right? So that's the idea, the technical idea behind racing. But I do want to stress that, we do want to give one of the priorities around racing is we want to have a rich experience for actually driving the car and playing in whatever metaverse. As far as like, other than racing, where will the races exist? They could be on our platform and they could be on others. We, of course, want to launch in like, for example, Mock's metaverse, right? The first metaverse on Kadena. So we'd love to have like a racing game within the Mock world, And that goes back to like our car and our vision, just being interoperable with like other NFTs and other projects.
Of course. So I don't know if I understood this correctly. You're basically building an architecture for how you will import cars for a race, not the actual game itself, but more of a structure that people can use. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Correct. Yes, correct. But it can that can be used in our game, if that makes sense. So we can use, that structure within our game. Yeah.
Just let me just ask you a little bit more about that game. Will it be like full 3D? You see yourself behind the wheel, more like a 2D from the top, where you can race the car? How are you envisioning it?
Yep. So one important point I do want to note is you will likely see multiple. You'll see both of those. Like I said, we do want to launch on other platforms as well. So we do want like races, for example, or on the Bulls platform if we get lucky enough in the future, right? And that would be a mini game, obviously. But our core game, the core experience, will be a 3D racer where you can get behind the wheel and you can actually drive, right?
Okay.
That's not something when we first started Kadcars that we wanted to build, but it's something that we realized from like talking to people is like a very core experience of a racing game, right? Even if it's, you can build really fun 2D games and like top front racers, but you do need to have that, rich experience with racing. You need to get behind the wheel in 3D, at least we think.
And how do you think that will fit into the timeline? Do you think it's something that's kind of like for 2022, or maybe more down the line for 2023, or what?
Yeah. So the initial version of the game will, preview within 2022, might be late 2022, towards the last quarter, but it's definitely in plans for 2022. What makes it easier, makes everything easier with like a 3D racing game is, you have to remember that we already have our 3D cars, we do have to build the game around them, and that's not easy, or that's not something we can rush, but it's something that we can release an initial version of within 2022. We're confident about that. We also are bringing on a Unity developer. We finalized that with them very recently. Within mid-July, you'll probably hear like an official announcement on us bringing them in.
Nice. Okay. Since we're talking about dates, do you have any timelines for the first drop? I think you mentioned July.
Yeah. So in July, we'll have the initial mint for the K2, which is the off-roader, and that will be for the people who are whitelisted. They'll be able to get a K2 and even be able to go into the website, load in their NFT and actually turn it around and see it in full 3D. Because again, that's a pretty big or important part of having a 3D car. You need to actually be able to see it in 3D. So you can turn it around, view it, play with it. But the upgrades will come down the line, probably in August. So the initial version we release will be a 3D awesome car, and then sometime in August, you'll be able to upgrade it. We'll start with paint, so you can upgrade your paint. You buy like a paint NFT, and then you want metallic red or whatever you want, you can add onto your car. Then we'll move to stuff like wheels and parts.
Wheels, of course. You need to pimp your ride.
Yeah, pimp my ride.
Big wheels.
Yeah, that's a nice name for our garage. Something similar to that.
So it seems like you're building kind of like an ecosystem for racing cars, right? It's not just like a collectible. It's more of a bigger thing. Have you considered the introduction of a token maybe for that ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we do plan on, having a token for our ecosystem. We have a lot of, use cases that will benefit from having a token, and, will be more organized with a token, including stuff like upgradability and racing and competing and, the play to earn aspect of it.
Betting.
We're still a little early.
Everyone's
yeah. Yeah, so we are a little early when it comes to, providing full details on the token. We want to responsibly give a really nice tokenomics plan for how we spend our token, but that will come soon. So within the next, I'd say 5 weeks, you can expect to hear more about like exactly what you can use our token for, whether it's races or upgrades, how you can earn the token, and, all its benefits for holding the token.
Sounds amazing. I think as far as the Kadcars project goes, I think you kind of pointed out everything. What I wanted to go on about now, so maybe you can now relax a bit. You've made your pitch. Now let's talk a bit about Kadena itself. So what was I know you said you started mining KDA a while back, but what was the core reason that brought you to build on Kadena? What do you think Kadena offers that no one else does?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, and there's a lot there. Kadena offers, I think, a lot that others don't, and it's not just Kadena, to be honest. It's Kadena and Flux. Together, I think they are the ultimate duo in every way. So when it comes to like everything we're trying to build, right, upgradability, for example, that's only possible on Kadena safely because of things like, Stuart Haber content integrity, where your NFTs are rich manifests on chain that you can actually authenticate against time. And then you also have things like, so we have a lot of tech that we're trying to build, and this is probably the most important point. We have a lot of technology that we need to build, a lot of contracts that need to work together. Building those at, they need an agile process to be able to build these. And Kadena has a really, really cool way to safely upgrade smart contracts. That's probably one of the key points that brought us on initially, is the fact that you had upgradable contracts, but you could also lock to a specific contract, right? You can say, I want to use this contract only at this hash or only at this version. So that's allowed within Kadena, but you can also upgrade your contract. So you can work, in an agile or continuously improve and build on your contract.
So
that was very important. Yeah.
Pact is a big factor for you to be building. Okay.
Yeah, Pact is a huge factor, even though at the time we didn't really know everything about it, but we knew enough to know, you had upgradable contracts that you could lock to a certain point. We knew that there was something called Minta Marketplace, and all we knew about that at the time, which was very important, is that Marmalade lets you essentially model behavior, like business behavior or business workflows that you need in your use case on chain. Like in their case, right, buying or selling NFT, right? If you buy or sell an NFT today, you go through a marketplace. What Marmalade did is they encoded that behavior in a very trustless way on chain. So a seller would offer, a NFT, or a seller would put an NFT up for a certain timeout, and then a buyer can independently and in trustless way put up an offer and buy it later. And that's done through death pacts, which are essentially a way to model, a workflow across different transactions. And that was a pretty big, win for us, because when we saw that you could encode behavior, we started thinking, hey, this is perfect for all these functionality that we want to do. The tech was a big part of it. Flux was also pretty cool. We loved Flux since we've heard about it. And when you see like every Kadena project is very closely tied to Flux or using Flux, and then you can build a fully decentralized app that's actually decentralized.
Yeah.
You get excited, right? Yep. Even though, initially before Kadcars, we were pretty big critics in the NFT space, at least I was, because NFTs, or at least now, you have maybe, let's say 10, 20 awesome NFTs that are pretty cool in their own right, but they all live in their own world, right? You can't really do much with them. Even when you can interact with them, it's very limited and expensive. Kadena lets you get around that. It has pretty cheap gas, literally free gas that you can put up gas stations, right? For cars, gas stations. That's
it makes
perfect,
sense.
right?
Makes sense.
Yeah. It was a combination of the tech and like not just the tech, but the use cases that the technology supports on Kadena was what's really powerful. You can move away from just having a bunch of NFTs on their own island and let them actually talk now and interact and play around with them together.
Makes total sense. I hear you. That's actually something I wanted to touch on, the NFTs and all of this space. Like, I've been around the NFTs space way before I even was in Kadena, and at first you don't know what it is. Like, you just, it's a nice way to make money, right? You buy, you sell higher. It's like all of crypto, to be honest. But then you start to see that there's actually some nice use cases that you can find there, and there are projects that are trying to go that way, but most of them, like 90-something%, are just trying to either make money, I'll make money, or just make some PFPs and then just that's
like
it.
A quick bang and leave.
That's it. And they're in their own right, because you just buy if you want to, right? But I think there's more to NFTs than just cool portfolio pictures, and so I applaud you for trying to do something different. And that combining NFT seems like really cool, and actually as a gamer, I think you want that, right? You want to say, okay, I have this, and you actually give use cases for those NFTs that have no use case. Like, oh, I have this picture of an ape. What do I do with it? You can put it on Twitter, right? Okay, but now you can actually use it as an avatar inside of a game, right? So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and it also goes beyond just cars, right? So we're actually building out, the upgrades initially for our car, but we do want to build it out as a standard, a set of standards, so that you can, use it in any metaverse application. If you have land, right, you buy one of those lands that are for sale, you can add a house and then add furniture as separate NFTs onto it. It works for that too. You can have like a character with armor and weapons, and the weapons are separate NFTs that are attaching onto your character. Even the mag, right, the ammo can be modeled as a separate NFT. So I think this is very important, not just for our use case, but just for the concept of a metaverse that's actually governed by NFTs on blockchain.
I think,
which is,
some people might be wondering, is this only for Kadena NFTs? Can I bring a Bored Ape Yacht Club as my racer?
Yeah, that's a good question. For now, it's exclusive for Kadena. If you want to bring your Bored Ape Yacht Club, then build it on Kadena.
Yeah, just bridge it.
Yeah, but that is something we're looking at. I don't want to promise it now because that's not an area we have actually solved for yet. But it is something that we want to eventually support, or hope to eventually support, right? Because that opens a whole new world.
I would imagine
NFTs from
some metaverses that most metaverses are not on Kadena, right? So a good way to maybe bring attention to the outside world of Kadena would be to have something like that, where you can bring your NFT. Oh, just bring it on and join it with one of our Kadcars and just go to Sandbox and ride it, for example.
Yep, that's the ideal world that we want to get to. Basically a Ready Player One kind of world. That's one of our biggest favorite movies. And if you ever want to get to a world like that where it's actually NFTs you're using and that you can actually verify you own securely, then you need NFTs to be able to talk, to combine, to interact, to affect each other, right?
Absolutely. And I think this goes without saying, as soon as you are such a big Flux believer, but I'm guessing you are going to be running on Flux. Whatever.
Yeah. So we're already running on Flux. Right now our site is on Flux, and everything, all the infrastructure that we have that needs to be off-chain. Of course, you're going to have infrastructure off-chain. We want it to still be decentralized. So of course, we're going to go with Flux. Anyone who's not on Flux, or is not using a true decentralized infrastructure, it's pointless, right? Because even if you have a smart contract, at the end of the day, if you have stuff that's like on AWS, what's the point? So yeah, we love Flux, and we plan to use Flux for every aspect of our infrastructure. Yeah, from like compute to storage in the future to everything, really.
Great to hear. I hope Flux, he's hearing all of this, because a lot of projects are coming and they need to be up to the task, man, because it's going to be a big amount of computer power and storage that they need. But I'm sure they'll manage, because they're great, actually. Omar, I think that's basically what I wanted to talk with you about. So July for the mint, it's almost here. I mean, we are 1 week away from July, so it's setting out to be an amazing month, and we hope to hear from you again after the mint, and maybe after some time. We'll be happy to have you here discussing what you learned, what went right, what went wrong. For anyone that wants to follow you, you have a website and a Twitter. Do you have any other social media like Discord, Telegram?
Yep, we have a Discord as well. I'll post on our Twitter now all our social media links. We don't have a Telegram now. We want to avoid Telegram for now for some reasons. But yeah, we have a Discord, a Twitter, and yeah, please follow us. We're going to be posting our updates as we get closer to July. Okay, so there's a lot to look forward to.
We'll add all your channels on the description below. Once again, Omar, thanks a lot for being with us. And very excited for your project, and hope to hear again from you soon. See ya.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.